Here's Mike Talk.
What is up? Good morning. Have the rains finally ceased here in Central Florida? I don't think so. I think it's supposed to rain more today. But then we'll be clear after that. Mike talking for Marc Daniels, Beat of Sports on FM 96.9 The Game. Mark will join us in our next segment, an early arrival from Mark, so we'll have him on a little bit longer. Chris Vasquez alongside here this morning. And like a little bit of again, like I said, a crossover in the sports calendar as we get into April. Baseball now fully underway. Used to just barely be underway, but now it's fully underway. NBA playoffs beginning shortly. KV leaving. Drive safely out there, KV. And obviously the end of the college hoop season as well. The discussion continues to rage on. I guess I want to start here a little bit, Chris, is what college sports are going to look like in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. And there's still ongoing discussions with that. But I will say one thing that actually has me both enthused and fully engaged, right? And it's a little bit like, I probably most like the end of the NBA season / baseball season where it hits you really fast. There's more of a long time in between the NFL season and free agency, it feels like. But like where it's like, all right, now we're right into it. Right? You step into it as soon as the year is over. College football has it as well. You step right into it. All right, what are these guys going to do? And so as much as the portal can drive you a little bit crazy and seeing what the numbers are as far as like anywhere between 40 and 60%, I hard to tell you which number is accurate as far as the number of guys that have jumped into the portal, which I think we agree many are misguided in doing so. Right, that there's a group that is misguided. Like there's no reason to do it. There isn't a demand for your services. You're better off staying and progressing where you're at. There's a group that absolutely you should do it. It's going to pay off big for you. You're going to make a jump up in levels. And we've seen a lot of those guys, even in this NCAA tournament, that made those jumps up. Probably no more prominent than Yaxel, who had a chance to turn pro at a UAB, doesn't, goes back to Michigan, gets paid, wins a national championship. That's in one of the many ways in which the portal could be completely advantageous, and I think we can all be for it. It sucks if you're UAB on some level, but that's what we'd want for anybody to take advantage of. And so it's sort of exciting because it is a little bit like free agency. Are there too many free agents flooding the market? Yes. I think we can agree on that. That's where, even if it was just 2-year deals that guys were sort of locked into contractually, if they're going to have actual contracts with monies involved, it would make it a little bit easier on coaching staff, certainly even on fans. And it's like, Carolina's got a new head coach and he's got to go a lot of shopping, not just recruiting, but figuring it all out. But even the evaluation of if you're picked after 20 in the NBA draft now, like I'll just give you what the number is. If you're the 25th pick in the NBA draft, you're making about $3 million in your first year, and you only got 2 years guaranteed. Now, it's like a $15 million deal, so if you hit, you're going to see it, but some guys don't. Let's be honest. Like we've seen where some guys get the 2, and then they're off and trying to figure out their professional career after that. So if you're 25, though, like $3 million, you can get that. And we saw probably 4 or 5 guys last year that would have been in that range that went back to college, got paid, and had a chance to advance. Now, a lot of those guys actually, because this class is so good, didn't necessarily move up. Although maybe Thomas Houck, Florida, might be one of those guys that moved up slightly from where he was a year ago. But that's sort of an exciting part of it is, hey, what are some of these guys going to do? Whether it's shopping with their own school or getting an opportunity for another school, an adjacent school. I highlighted last week the number of guys. There were 3 guys in the Final Four that played at one of the other schools previously. So sometimes it's the lateral move, maybe because of fit as much as because of dollars and cents that they make that move. So as much as everyone is down, I think in big picture, you certainly represent that sect well, I think. I do think there is an appealing side to all of this as far as retaining players and or improving quickly or changing where your team looks to go into the next season because of it. So I do think there is an exciting factor. I think it needs to be tempered a little bit with the number of people available in the portal, but I think there is a good part of it that college athletics has introduced, certainly in basketball now.
I'm fine with, these kids trying to step up, we'll say, in competition. You mentioned Yaxel going from UAB to Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can agree that's a step up
of course.
In competition and talent and all that.
Increase your draft stock. I mean, all of it that comes with it. Because that's one of the things, of course, with the draft is like, hey, when you have smaller school guys, whether it's the CJ McCollum or Damian Lillard, there's always that question, John Morant, like, how is this going to translate? Now, with rare exceptions, we usually get to see now in these last few years guys that can make that jump up. And it's like, oh, wow, no, they can do it.
The thing that bugs me the most is, one, my opinion.
Yeah.
I think all these college kids, or at least a majority of them, are thinking very short term in terms of you're going to 4 different schools in 4 different years, and then you're trying to sue the NCAA for a 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th year of eligibility. That's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. 4 years, 5 years max. Stop transferring year to year. If you want to truly make it to the next level, develop your game.
Let me ask you one thing really quick.
Yes.
Because it's sort of an interesting, the news that comes out yesterday, and even like what the president talked about signing in, which will never go through. It will never get through the courtrooms. Are you more bothered by, because you're clearly bothered, so I'll use that word, the amount of time in college or the age of a player in college? Like 6 years, if you start when you're 17 to play to 23, does that bother you more? Or is it more like, hey, the Chris Winkie, fill in the blank guys that are 27, 28 playing in college, even if it is under a smaller window?
I've honestly never thought about that.
I mean, I heard Calipari mention the age because clearly, in the SEC, there were a couple players that, and he's not wrong. Like physically, there's a big difference at 22 to 18, let alone 25 or 26, 27. So I'm just asking.
I guess I would be more bothered by the years spent in college.
Okay. So it'd be okay if somebody played basketball in Europe until their mid-20s and then came over. We had their 4 years of eligibility, or 5 years if that's the way you want to spend it.
I know Mark has brought this up, and it is different. I get it. I understand it. It's different over in Europe to where it is here. There does need to be, I think, some sort of, happy median where if you're 24 or if you've played X amount of years at a pro level in Europe to where you can't go and play college basketball here. If you want to go to college, great. Get your education, fantastic. But college athletics, I think there needs to be some sort of cutoff. Just, I don't know what that would be or how you would even get anybody to agree to it. Because I know coaches won't do it. ADs won't do it, right?
Should you view junior college as different than regular college?
It's a college, is it not?
I'm asking. Obviously, it's
college.
The Trinidad Chambliss is playing another year. Diego Pavia got to play a little bit more. So right now, it's not being considered on that same plane.
That is all part of college athletics, is it not?
Right now, no, it's not considered the same as Division I.
So then, guys playing Division II football, do they get to sue for more eligibility if they make the jump up?
I believe that's the case. Yes,
that's absolutely ridiculous.
That's exactly where we're at.
That is ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Obviously, it's still a lot to sort through, and I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. In large part, the money that we're arguing over is getting in the way in a lot of ways. But I think it's going to continue to be difficult as long as the powers that be care more about their financial gains than they do about
that matters.
The state of the sport.
That's all that matters.
They do not evaluate the state of the sport as more important than the state of their piggy banks.
For sure.
Until that happens, there's never really going to be as much progress on this as we'd like there to be. The Masters is underway. Jose Maria Olazabal is your current leader at 2 under par through 6. Obviously, they're just getting started here on Thursday morning. Whit Watson will join us coming up in the 10 o'clock hour. Coming up, Marc Daniels will join us next. I am curious his thoughts on this FIFA ticketing scandal, if you will, with the World Cup. It is a frustrating read, and probably even more frustrating if you purchase tickets expecting one thing and you got another. We'll get Mark's thoughts on that, on the Magic, and more coming up next here on the Beat of Sports.
It's almost like an unwritten rule that when you become a father, you become king of the bad dad jokes.
What is Forrest Gump's password? One Forrest one.
Are you ready to laugh? We know at least one person is. Here's CB's dad joke of the day.
Oh, that's so great. All right. So I felt good. I got you to laugh last time. You enjoyed it.
It was a good one.
Let me see if I can pull a reverse psychology. I'm not confident in this one with you, Tuck. I'm not confident.
Nor should you be. The numbers suggest you should not be. You're a 16 seed in this bracket.
Let's see if I can pull the upset. Did you hear Oxygen went on a date with Potassium?
Oh, God. I did not.
It went okay.
I did not know what Potassium's was, but that makes sense.
Chemistry joke.
Yeah. That would kill in class, probably. I'm sure there's a lot of professors that like that one.
Utah, Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma. From somewhere else in the country, let's welcome the host of the Beat of Sports as a guest on his own show. Here's Marc Daniels.
10 o'clock, WIGM Orlando, WJRR, HD2 Cocoa Beach, FM 96.9 The Game, and AM 740. Orlando sports leader Mike Tuck, Chris Vasquez, and on his way to Kansas, as announcer guys said, Marc Daniels. Marc, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I am fantastic. I want to start you off with something that it might even be a Richard Hale question on Friday. I can imagine it being. But what your thoughts are on this FIFA story in regards to World Cup tickets and people purchasing them in areas that they thought they were going to be seated somewhere that they wanted to and they paid for, and then now not getting to sit in some of those select spots.
There's no more scandalous group than FIFA, period. I mean, that's not meant to be a joke. It just is. The story, it's shocking, but it's not because of the history of FIFA. And I can't imagine the lawsuits that will happen. But basically, and you may have explained, people purchased tickets for where they thought they were going to sit to find out, no, we've moved you. We're not giving any money back. It's criminal. And this group never ceases to amaze in their criminal activity, their fraud, and they're bringing the biggest party to this country, and it'll be a massive event. But people were fearful of the ticket scam and the ticket problem and all sorts of things, and it's on display for you right now. It's not a few hundred tickets. These are thousands of tickets.
Mm-hmm.
And people are just now being told, wait, what? Like, yeah, I know you thought you were there, but you're over here. And you're like, well, I didn't pay for that. Yeah, don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's only going to get worse before it gets better because nothing in FIFA ever is done right.
And I from what I read, I guess it's that this is the norm in the way that tickets are sold, as opposed to what we're accustomed to for our sports events in America. Is you buy your ticket and your section, you know exactly where your seat is. And for these, they're sold categorically. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, et cetera, further away you go. And they just remapped everything, right? And even though they're protected, at least the literature in theory is protecting FIFA as far as, hey, this is an about as far as where you might be seated. I mean, you're talking about in many cases where you thought you might be sitting, if you will, 40, 50, yard line on that side. And now you're behind the goal, not anywhere close to where you thought you were going to be seated, or you're moving further up into the stands than you thought you were going to be seated.
And part of it is that it's a FIFA-run event in America stadiums where we don't do things like they do. Where in America, you purchase a ticket, you're in section 105 and row C and seat 5 and 6, and that's what you purchase. What they're saying is, well, it doesn't really work that way. But it's a disaster, and it won't be the last ticket disaster that you hear about the World Cup. Just wait till you get people that are going to travel here from across the globe, that their tickets won't be there, or it won't be anywhere near where they thought. And it's FIFA, man. And what they did, and this isn't bitter because Orlando didn't get games, it's what they did in every city, that what you had to roll out for them, what you had to promise them, and control your stadium and all sorts of stuff. And your stadium may be called this, but we won't call it that for the World Cup, because if you want our games to come here, you got to follow our rules. And, it's not that you don't want the World Cup. It's too big of an event, but between the IOC and FIFA, it's hard to find two groups as fraudulent as they can be.
The Orlando Magic won their 4th in a row last night. Don't need to apologize that Minnesota decided not to play anybody that is normally playing for them. They put themselves in position now. If they win their last couple of games, the worst off they're going to be is playing potentially for a 7 seed in the upcoming NBA playoffs. They still could find themselves in the top 6, but will need a little bit of help. It's sort of a weird spot, maybe because the topsy-turvy nature of this season is like, what would be, a week from now, the best case scenario for if you're a Magic fan and what you want to see play out for the rest of this season?
Well, I don't think you want to be in the play-in, and so clearly you want to be at least in the 6th spot. Mathematically, you could still finish 5th, but I think realistically, and I said this, that I thought the Magic went out, they're going to be 6th. They'd get a matchup against the Knicks, which is interesting. A healthy Magic team is an interesting matchup against, the Knicks. Although I think people are still underselling the Knicks on a national level. But look, Mike, if they win their next two games and Chicago is nothing to play for,
Right.
Boston would gladly forfeit Sunday than
Yes.
than play. So the Magic are in position to finish 46-36. And if I'd have told you before the season, hey, they're going to go 46-36, and there's going to be a loud group of people that want the coach fired, that think that Palos had a bad year, not me, but think he's had a bad year, and also you'd be like, what are you talking about? But it's always about the journey, and I still think there are valid questions about Orlando. They're beating some teams right now they're supposed to beat because of what teams are putting on the floor. But they're in position to finish outside the play-in, possibly. And from that standpoint, it doesn't erase the disappointment of the season, but it does make you feel like, okay, well, let's see what will happen in a series. I do think they got to, if they finish 7th or 8th, yeah, you could win, you could advance. But that's just dangerous. It's tricky. Weird things can happen. You're playing teams that have been actually trying to win. But listen, better to finish on a high note than to, lose 6 straight. I mean, would you want to be the Heat right now?
No, they're kind of stuck where they are. Although if you're a Magic fan, you're actually pulling for the Heat these last few days because they got Toronto and Atlanta on the schedule.
Well, I'm just saying, though, how Miami's playing.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
a team like the Magic that pride itself on defense can't stop anybody, truly can't stop anybody. And the franchise is going nowhere, has, no direction whatsoever. So, to bring it back to the Magic, the whole key is were they able to get healthy and let's see what happens. It doesn't fix the flaws of the team. It doesn't fix what some may question about Jamal Mosley, but that doesn't matter right now. He's not getting fired. So the team's got 2 games left. See what happens. If they finish out of the play-in, then you get into a 7-game series, and who knows what can happen with this basketball team.
Yeah, I hate to put it all on the end of the season, but unfortunately, because of the injuries this team has suffered all year long, that's kind of where they're at right now. Is hey, it's a chance potentially, and you cross your fingers because even Franz last night had a scare that you're going to get to see them at full strength, and you're kind of measuring whether it's Detroit, Boston, or New York. It would look like at this hour that you get in the playoffs. Like how well do they do? Are the games competitive? Are you seeing some level of, hey, this team can compete? Let's keep it together. Maybe make minor tweaks versus if the series is lopsided or ugly, then you have to visit other options in the offseason. And right now, I think the only scenarios where a Magic fan is happy is competing to win a first round series that goes at least 7 where they're competitive, if not winning the series, and or you get eliminated in the play and somehow get lucky lottery balls and end up in the top 4. I think those are the only 2 scenarios where Magic fans after this year, and you talked about the journey's been rough. I think those are the only 2 scenarios that Magic fans actually pleased 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, look, I think that if the Magic lose in a play-in or the Magic lose in a non-competitive first-round series, it was a wasted year. It was a wasted year from the standpoint that the franchise didn't take a step forward, didn't get to the second round, wasn't competing for the Eastern Conference title when you thought that before the year. Decision about your coach, whether you want to bring him back, a decision about the president, you want to bring him back, do you keep the core of this team? That becomes your off-season. Now, you could play a 7-game series and lose to one of those teams you mentioned and still have the same questions. Doesn't mean that everything's fine. But let's see what happens. And look, there's a faction of the Magic fan base that doesn't want the team to win.
Right.
I mean, they want change.
Right.
They want Jamal Mosley fired. They want Jeff Weltman gone. So that's a bad spot for your fan base too. And never have a group that you saw that for Florida football fans. You saw that for some UCF fans a couple of years ago with Gus. Not a good spot to be in. But listen, they won these games, and it's better to be playing at this level. I do think a half-court game, which the playoffs tends to be, is a little bit better for the Magic. It's a little bit better to play defense. It's a little bit better for Powell, whose playoff numbers are really good, and that's why it's a 7-game series. So I think it would really help if these guys get into the play-in, and I do think if they win their next 2 games, I do think they'll be the 6th seed.
All right, Mark, I know I got to let you go. So safe travels to Lawrence. Hopefully you don't get any rain out there.
90% chance tomorrow. So
Is it
we'll
really?
See. But,
Holy cow.
It is rain all weekend in Lawrence, but
Oh, wow.
we'll see what happens there. But
All right.
all right, guys, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Appreciate
All
it.
right. Marc Daniels, the voice sounds improved for sure.
It's getting better, but
Yeah.
he's
It was rough I felt bad. I was telling KV, I don't know, before you walked in, CV, like over the weekend, man, it was tough.
yeah,
It was tough. He battled through, though. Mark's a gamer, no doubt about it.
that's for sure.
The Masters is underway. Colin Morikawa, Hideki Matsuyama, they're showing on the screen right now, warming up. Morikawa with his back looks like he's moving okay. We'll get you updates on the leaderboard. And Whit Watson's thoughts on how he thinks these next 4 days might play out next year on the Beat of Sports.
Welcome back to the Beat of Sports. Filling in for Marc Daniels, here's Mike Tuck.
Beat of Sports on a lovely Thursday morning on FM 96.9 The Game and AM 740, Orlando's sports leader. Mike Tuck, Chris Vasquez. We're efforting to get Whit Watson on to discuss the Masters, which is underway. Jose Maria Olazabal is your current leader. He is at 2 under par, tied with Sam Burns, the American, through 7 and through 3, respectively. Max Homa is already at the turn at 1 under par, and a flurry of other golfers out on the course as we are about 40% of our way through the early tee times here this morning. Bryson DeChambeau just getting out on the course himself right now with Xander Schauffele as part of his group and Matt Fitzpatrick. Colin Morikawa shortly will be out on the course as well. And the defending champion Rory McIlroy at the bottom of the hour will see his tee time come up as well. He is in a grouping with Cameron Young and amateur Mason Howell. How about Mason Howell getting to be in a group with Cameron Young and Rory McIlroy? No pressure for the young amateur. We'll continue to see if we can get Whit on here. But what's interesting is I love this, and I've been doing this now for a couple of decades with the NCAA tournament, sort of evaluating what history tells us and, chances of upsets, chances of who's going to advance to a Final Four or win the championship. And there sort of becomes this mathematical formula. If you've been watching the NCAA tournament coverage, in the last couple of years, CBS, TBS has introduced this as well, going over it with their cast and crew on what it would look like to make the NCAA tournament and win the championship, and usually narrows it down quite a bit to sometimes a half dozen teams or less. Well, I found someone else that did the work for me, Hannah Van Biber, to give her some credit, that did the same thing with the Masters and narrowed it down quite a bit to the point where you got to just 3 names at the end that could be crowned Masters champion. And the 3 names are Jon Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, and Xander Schauffele, believe it or not, were the 3 names that mathematically have the best odds percentage chance to win. All right, we got Whit Watson joining us right now from Making the Cut. You can check out his show on the weekends and on iHeart Podcasts as well. Whit, it's been a while. How are you?
I'm doing well. Sorry, guys. My phone is not ringing. It must be all that Masters excitement, the electricity in the air.
There you go. There you go. So I brought this up a little bit earlier, and there doesn't necessarily need to be an answer. Sometimes we obsess over having this answer, but with Rory last year achieving the career Grand Slam, if there was a storyline going in, it was certainly him trying to do that. What is the storyline as we head into the Masters this year?
So everything that I've been reading and from what I've been listening and watching is that the storyline going into this year is that it's a wide open Masters. And people seem to be very excited about that there's no dominant storyline. There's nobody who's an odds-on favorite. You've got Scheffler with his mind-numbing consistency. You've got McIlroy with the possibility of going back-to-back now that the elephant is off of his shoulders. Jon Rahm, who is in this battle with the DP World Tour about trying to maintain his membership so he can play the Ryder Cup in 2027 in Ireland, coming off the Live Tour and certainly a guy that can win a green jacket. Bryson DeChambeau's played great on Live. He's won twice in a short season over there, but none of them are obvious and all of them are possible. And that's been the story, is that there's no one. When you go into a Masters, as you know, Mike, there's 91 players in the field, but realistically, there's like 10 guys that can win, right? And any one of the 10 that you're thinking of are realistic possibilities, and none of them will surprise you if they end up winning it on Sunday. And I think that's been the storyline this week.
So nobody's gone back-to-back winning the Masters since Tiger, obviously.
Since Eldrick.
Yeah,
right?
It's been a little bit. But the Masters has also introduced us to first-time major winners as well. 38 in the history of the event have won their first ever major at Augusta. Who's the most likely, in your opinion, to win their first major this weekend?
If you're going on form, Chris Gotterup has won twice this year on the PGA Tour, so he'd be the most likely candidate just based on how they're playing this year. I guess that'd be my guess.
Okay.
And then Cameron Young obviously has had a great year. He's the third-ranked player in the world, and nobody's talking about him, which is kind of shocking given how he played at the Players Championship. You got to go back to I guess Danny Willett. Correct my math. Who was the most recent first-time major winner at the Masters? Was it Willett in 16?
I feel
or
like
Sergio maybe, because Sergio had that long streak without winning a major championship. But anyway, those two guys. Young would be, I guess, the more likely pick given how he's playing. But I kind of feel like with the conditions the way they're going to be this year, it's going to be so firm and fast, which has everybody so excited because the course is going to be gnarly. I feel like that's going to favor someone that's been around the place a few times more than a first timer. So just, throw that out there. Again, the pundits' opinion is worth what it's worth, right? This golf course will decide. The golf course will decide. We will not decide. The golf course will decide.
All right, I knew I had it in my notes somewhere. You're correct with the names, but they're not the most recent. Danny Willett in 16, Garcia in 17, Patrick Reed in 18, Matsuyama in 21, and Scheffler in 22. Right, so you're going too far back in the time machine. Speaking of Scheffler, he's the only guy in the last 20 years, I was amazed by this, that was the betting favorite to actually win the tournament. Why do you think that we haven't seen the betting favorites win this very difficult tournament?
I just think this golf tournament is a hard one to pick.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I'm in a one and done, with a bunch of media members around the state, and we give all the money to charity at the end of the year, and I'm the only golf guy, and I suck. I'm terrible. I'm dead last. And the Masters has always been the hardest one to pick because it's a quirky event. It never necessarily favors the favorite. It comes down to a putting contest oftentimes. I had totally forgotten that Scheffler broke through at Augusta National.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard golf tournament to pick. It's quirky. The pressure on Sunday is unlike anything else in major championships. It's not a U.S. Open. It's not an Open Championship. The weather very rarely has anything to do with it. You don't deal with heat like you do at a U.S. Open. You don't deal with wind like you do at an Open Championship. You deal with the pressure of 50-plus years of every shot, every hole being exactly the way it's always been. You've watched this tournament since you were a kid. Every player that's ever gone through this place has dealt with every hole location being in the exact same place since 1934. You know exactly what you're going to get. Can you handle it or not? And that, I think, is the beauty of this golf tournament. Nothing ever changes. It's just, can you handle it? And that's why, they always say it begins on the back nine on Sunday. That's not true. It begins on the first tee on Thursday. Are you willing, when those patrons are standing 3 feet away from you, which is unlike anything else in a major championship, can you handle the pressure at Augusta National?
Whit Watson from Making the Cut, great golf show weekends and an iHeart podcast. You can check that out. Joining us now. Speaking of the weather forecast, and this is, I didn't do the research on this, but I guess we haven't had a clean, no rain, no weather problem issue in the Masters in over a decade now, but that's what's in the forecast. Don't want to jinx it, but that's what's in the forecast right now. But I don't remember anyone ever bringing a 3D printer 5-iron to the Masters either. What are we doing, Bryson DeChambeau, with a 3D printer 5-iron?
Well, that's who I picked in the one and done, which means he'll shoot 75 and miss the cut by a mile. He's the mad scientist, man. This is what he does. This is his MO. He's a tinkerer. very much in the mold of Arnold Palmer. He just likes to mess around. Brilliant guy, and just cannot get out of his own head sometimes. But he wins. Like I said, he's won twice on Live. He went through that phase in his career where he decided to bulk up and drink 18 protein shakes a day and try to hit it as far as he could, and then realized that wasn't really working for him mentally or physically. Dialed it back and has found a groove on Live. But he's found a groove both, again, in the mental game and in the physical game. He's kind of embraced the social media aspect of golf. Very much likes where he is with Liv. Koepka walked off and Reed walked off, but DeChambeau has embraced it, and he's in a good place. And I jokingly say that because I picked him, he'll bomb, but I do think he's got a pretty good chance. He fits the profile of age and stage in his career where this really could be a good week for him. I hope. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I'm not looking for necessarily a repeat answer. Maybe it is, but who stands to gain the most by winning the tournament this weekend on the 91 that are competing to win it?
Him. Yeah, I mean, that's a repeat answer.
Sure.
DeChambeau for sure. I think Rahm stands to gain quite a bit. Obviously, he's already been there, but he's in this standoff with the DP World Tour about trying to regain his membership. They want him to play 6 events a year. He's steadfast for whatever reason on playing 4. I think this is kind of a silly hill to die on, but he's in a mood. And this affects his ability to play the Ryder Cup in 2027. If he doesn't have DP World Tour membership, he cannot be on the European Ryder Cup team. And I guess he feels like he's got leverage, like he thinks he's going to win the battle. I think winning another green jacket would probably give him some of that leverage. Those 2 guys, I think, stand out to me. Anybody that puts on the green jacket, it's certainly, McIlroy winning back-to-back would put him another step up in the pantheon, in terms of his career. It would move him one more level up. It's just another rung on his path into the World Golf Hall of Fame. It's just such a special event, and it's, to me, it's the most prestigious of the major championships. And because it's a lifelong invitation, it's your permanent invitation into that Champions Dinner on Tuesday night. I just love this week. I love everything about it.
All right, I've gotten a couple of picks from you, so I'm not going to go there with this last question. Instead, I'm going to ask you, every year we get to have this, if you will, almost pilgrimage into golf fandom into what the Masters is. What is your favorite part about watching the Masters play out in Augusta?
My favorite part about watching the Masters play out in Augusta, I think, is watching a golf tournament that is free of obvious commercialism. Now, there's a lot of money. Make no mistake. There's a lot of money being spent at Augusta National every year in terms of corporate sponsorship. You just don't see it. It's all being done behind the scenes, behind the trees, in the cabins that are out of the sight of the cameras. But there's no overt corporate sponsorship. There's no billboards. There's no activation zones. There's no sponsorship that you can see. And that's kind of what lends to the mystique of the event, right? Is that it's just golf. It's patrons without cell phones. And everybody, as Jason Sobel wrote a beautiful piece earlier this week, everybody who's on the grounds is happy to be there. And there's no place else they'd rather be than just having 2 feet on the ground at Augusta National. No billboards, no advertising, golf course, golf ball, player, patrons. And that, to me, is my favorite part about watching the tournament.
Good answer. I like that. Refreshing. A little bit of a flashback to yesteryear.
Just very different, right? It's just there's nothing else like it in golf, where in all sports, I mean, watching the Final Four, they put an ad on the players' foreheads if they could, right? But at Augusta National, it's just absent. And make no mistake, they're making a lot of money on that tournament. You just don't see it. And that's the big difference.
So really more what can we find out about what's going on with making the cut this weekend?
Well, obviously we're Masters intensive because nobody else is playing this week. So My good friend Chris Datris, who worked with me at Golf Channel and ESPN, I'm lucky enough to have him in the studio. He's now working for the PGA Tour, and they've got kind of a week off because Augusta National is obviously in charge this weekend. So he'll be in the studio with me, and we're going to go back deep into the Masters Media Hub. We'll take all of the great press conference sound that they've got, all the interviews they've got. We'll play those back for you. Take a look at the first 2 days. Went really deep into the history, the birthdays and anniversaries of what's that fall on this weekend. And Chris and I, between us, we think we've been to about 20 Masters in terms of coverage. So we've got some behind the scenes. I was there when Tiger won his most recent Masters in 2019. I did a one-on-one interview with him for Westwood One Radio. So I'm going to play that interview back. The last time Tiger won the Masters. Too bad that he's not there and that Phil Mickelson's not there,
right,
which is kind of a weird week. And you got to go deep into the Wayback Machine to find a time when those two guys weren't playing a Masters.
1994.
We'll chat about that. Yeah, there you go. We'll chat about that on the show this weekend as well.
Whit, man, it was a pleasure. I love hearing your golf knowledge and look forward to listening to you this weekend.
Always a pleasure, man. We'll talk again soon.
All right. Whit Watson at Real Whit Watson. That is Whit, W-H-I-T, Watson, online. And you can check out that show this weekend as well. What time is that in the morning, CV?
That'll be from 9 to 10 Saturday
10.
morning.
I know I've listened to it before. I couldn't remember if it was 10 to 11 or 9 to 10.
9 to 10.
9 to 10. And you'll get to hear his recap of the first couple of days. Talking NFL draft with Cam Miller next.
This segment is presented by Bowegan's Beer Company. Love data? Love analytics? Let's take a deeper dive into both as we talk to Cam Meller.
What you know is very limited, and what you don't know is limitless.
The Chief Analytics and Data Officer at Pro Football Network. You can follow Cam on X or Twitter at Cam Meller.
Marc Daniels traveling with UCF Baseball on their way to Lawrence, Kansas to face the Jayhawks for a series. Mike Tuck in for Mark here today, and for the second straight week, I get to ask questions of Cam Meller in the upcoming NFL draft, which has me hyped. Cam, how are you today?
I'm hyped as well. I mean, we get it's Masters week, and then we'll take a week off, but then we have the draft. I mean,
Right.
It's a great time to be a sports fan.
Absolutely. Let me start with a couple sort of off-field things, if you will, and then we'll get into maybe some more specifics today. CC Mawanoa, back injury for the Miami Hurricanes offensive lineman. It's not an injury. He didn't miss a game for the Hurricanes, but they're doing a recheck that he's volunteered for. If anything, and we know how teams can freak out over the smallest things at this point, especially if there's a long-term disc issue with Mawanoa. How do you see this playing out?
Yeah, I think all those people that maybe were what we thought were reaching for other tackles in this draft class, maybe it was known for him. And you hope that it's not one of those items that is going to keep him off the top of the board. But with such a premium and such an investment in a first-round tackle, perhaps, you want to cross and check all your bases. So I hope for him. But it now, to me, it makes the picture at the top of the tackle board when you have Monroe Freeling come sort of not necessarily coming out of nowhere, but as the first tackle taken, it might not be the biggest long shot that we thought maybe a few months ago as all these puzzle pieces are coming together.
Or even Caden Proctor, the Alabama guy. I mean, it's open-ended. As a Dolphins fan, I'm hoping they leaked it to get him at 11, Mawanoa. So, selfishly, that's what I'm hoping for.
Right? He didn't miss a game. It's
right.
You get him for 5, 6 years, 7 years, maybe get him, sign him to the second contract, and it's a success. But yeah, you hope for him and for the best for him. So
I want to ask, and we're seeing yesterday the Houston Texans fifth-year options. For a couple of their former first-round picks and Will Anderson. So if you look historically, it's probably a little bit more than half of first-round picks get that fifth-year option. So it's not even necessarily a guarantee. In fact, it's barely above 50-50 that you get that. So I brought that up with Akeem Mesidor, who's an older player in Miami defensive end that is, obviously in the discussion to be a first-round pick, but a lot of times you err on the side of youth, in terms of longevity of career. I would argue, who cares? If you're going to get 5 productive years, you're going to get 5 productive years. That's more than what the average first-round pick provides. Where do you sit on his age and the factor where he goes in the first round potentially?
Yeah, honestly, he's in that boat where I'd want to, if you needed an edge and we see the run, we're likely going to see a run on these edge defenders or even a versatile defensive lineman like him where he can plug and play sort of any position. I want a grown man on my defensive line. And so I like you said I'm taking him in the first round, and I'm trading up to take him in the first round if he's sitting there at 31, 32, and I need an edge or I need a defensive lineman because I want to be able to start him from day one. I think that's where he is. I think his age sort of separates himself from that middle tier pack that might go first round or might be the early picks of day 2. So yeah, no, get him for 5 years. And, hopefully then you sign him, maybe not a mega contract, but then you can get him, 5, 7 more years after that, or get to that 7-year, 8-year mark with one of those 3-year deals. So no, I like him in the first round. I like him as one of those players that maybe you might see some movement for to secure him.
Maybe it's that we have too much time to sit in it. Maybe it's just that, a lot of people are catching up with history, whereas these teams are well aware of this. But David Bailey, the defensive end at Texas Tech, who might go second overall in this draft. We'll see where he ends up. There's the referee situation he had this past season. He had one when he was at Stanford where he stomped on another player's face in the end of a blowout game and was thrown out of a game. What do you see, if any, effect of some of these things that are away from the field affecting a guy like David Bailey and where he's drafted?
Yeah, it's hard because you look at his ability on the field and you want to say that you can deal with whatever else might come with the man, but then you realize some of the situations with those off-field situations have been flagged, and not saying his are as bad as some of those, legal disputes that we've seen from some of the other first-round picks, mainly in Atlanta this summer or this offseason. But those they got to be a minor red flag. But for him, it's tenacious. It's almost like in that Ndamukong Suh sort of vein. And so I guess, he cleaned up in the right system with the right coaching staff. You hope that can be out. He's tenacious. Let's face it. He's gonna get in your face. He's gonna do best for your team at that point. You feel like, or you hope so at least. So it's part of the puzzle. It's not as big of a puzzle piece for him, I'd say, as well, because 2 incidents. A third one would have made me a little bit more pause for concern. But I think at this point, you deal with what you bring to the table with him, and he's one of the better players in this entire class.
Cam Mellor joining us for our weekly segment talking college football. In this case, now moving it ahead to the NFL draft. Mike Tuck in from Marc Daniels today. I know you're not in the anti-running back group based on our conversation about Ashton Jeanty a year ago, so I don't think you're anti-Jeremiah Love being a first-round pick. And I would even qualify it in saying if you look at running backs that were selected in the top 10 historically, it's wildly successful for those guys. But after Jeremiah Love, it's a little bit of I don't know who's who. Who do you view as running back 2 in this class?
Yeah, I'm not anti Jeremiah Love, but I would say after that, I am anti taking any other running back in this class if you want to see a starter. I think that there is a clear cut. They're RB2 at best after Jeremiah Love, and I think the way that we've trended to that range in recent history, it sort of bodes well. But I honestly look at Jeremiah Love's teammate and Jadarian Price as probably the number 2 to me. I want to say Jonah Coleman from Washington via Arizona as well. I know there's not top end traits, but if you're looking for running back 2s that can take the load off or be one of those positional guys that you plug in third down or you plug in passing situations, there's a lot to like. And then Mike Washington Jr. from Arkansas with his pro day or his combine performance that sort of showcased who he can be. So a lot to like with those guys in terms of plugging and playing, but definitely don't count on anybody else besides Love to be the bell cow.
Yeah, it's probably speaks loudly about where this group is. It's very lackluster. I hate to put it on these kids that way, but when you're talking about the backup to the guy who's chosen first as the second back off the board, it probably tells you where this group is. And we've seen a lot of guys that are second, even third round picks that are drafted with the assumption that in a year or two they'll start. I'm not sure in this class if there is a guy that kind of fits that mold. If you were to pinpoint the guy that you would circle, hey, I think this guy has potential down the road, though, who is it?
Yeah, either one of the Penn State running backs. I feel like this class is, if we remember, there are a whole bunch of Khalil Herberts where they have 1,000-yard, 1,200-yard season in college, and then maybe they get pressed into duty early and they run really well and they do really well and average 5.5 yards a clip, but there's a reason they're not playing and they're on a second team very quickly. But I think that's a lot of what this class is. But either Katron Allen or Nicholas Singleton, to me, both of those, incredibly high recruiting profiles, really great success at Penn State. They don't have a lot of miles on them as well because they were able to split carries with each other, right? And so maybe down the road, pressed into action type of situation, in the right situation with the right team and right play calls, I think one of those 2 could be one of those, 1,000-yard rushers at least as early as maybe a year or 2.
What's fascinating about that answer is that they're very different stylistically. Like Katron Allen's, hey, like a bowling ball between the tackles. Nick Singleton, you don't know where he's going to end up, but he's so explosive, you're maybe willing to take the risk on him getting to the end zone eventually. So fascinating that you bring those guys up. But those were 2 guys that were highly hyped coming into the year for Penn State with big expectations for them as a season and kind of have flown under the radar in part because Penn State season did not play out as anticipated. The tight end class is somewhat similar to the running back class in that Kenyon Sadiq is the obvious first-round tight end from this group. I will just ask it this way, he's going to go in the first round out of Oregon, but how do you evaluate what he's going to be in the NFL?
He's a low red zone threat immediately. I think there's some drop issues as well with him, so I don't know if he's an every down tight end right away. He can block, and I think that's been his biggest differentiator as well. He's not unwilling. He is a guy who's going to want to get in the face of these defensive ends and chip some of these linebackers and really get after it. So I think that's where he is. He might be the every down in that sense, but don't expect him to be one of those Brock Bowers type receiving tight ends where he's going to get 60, 70, 80 receptions in a rookie season. He's got a little bit to work up to, but he's absolutely one of those guys. The catch radius he's got, the catch point prowess as well. A guy I really like in the low end, just as long as he can improve his hands on a consistent basis.
He destroyed the combine. But
destroyed.
like a lot of guys, though, it's like, all right, are they a split out tight end that can't block anybody, or are they a traditional Y, but they don't catch the ball very well? It feels like we're almost finding ourselves having two categories every given season when it comes to this position. Who would you look at as the tight end two in this class that could pop?
Oh, Oscar Delp from Georgia. I know we didn't see a lot of him or enough of him really, but I feel like when we did see, you have that guy that can be both almost, where he's an inline, but he's also can line up in the slot and be the quarterback's best friend because he's got some moves. And as long as that ankle's healthy, and as long as, clean bill of health for him for his rookie season, I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of those guys that sort of you look at and say, well, why didn't we see him in college do all these numbers or do this type of production? So Delp, but then I also like Michael Trigg from Baylor through USC as well. I like his abilities.
Delp is a fascinating answer because I don't have his stats in front of me. It's like 25 catches was his max for a season at Georgia.
Yeah, something like that. It's and the yardage was also incredibly low as well. It just, did not bode well, that offensive skill sets or that offensive scheme for him specifically. But yeah, one of those definitely, he's the prime athlete for, well, why didn't he do this in college? And why didn't he put up those numbers in college? I think maybe one or two games where he caught more than 2 passes as well. So.
Right. And so, for a school that had Brock Bowers, so we know we've seen Georgia utilize the tight end. Why do you think it is? Because I'm with you. I think traits wise, this kid could really, and you look at individual plays he made at Georgia, could flash. But why is it that they didn't value him in the way they valued Bowers?
It's interesting. I don't really know if I can answer it properly. Maybe they trusted Gunnar Stockton this past year to dish the ball out to their star-studded receivers outside, which I don't think anybody said about Georgia's receivers being star-studded. I mean, even Zachariah Branch's average depth of target was behind the line of scrimmage. And so maybe it's that. Maybe it's schematically they didn't want to actually get him out wide and get him out deep and find him anywhere else besides, a yard or two off the line of scrimmage. Maybe it was a lack of trust, maybe Gunnar Stockton, which is the opposite of what you hear coming from Georgia recently about his abilities. So it's a very interesting split to look at when you look at him versus Brock Bowers specifically, because stylistically, I really like both of them. And I almost like Delp as almost like a first round flyer, but definitely early in day two.
I'll leave you with this. I'll be back in 2 weeks on the day of the draft, so I'm looking forward to that conversation the day of the draft with you. But 2 weeks away, who do you see that potentially is gathering some momentum off of pro days, perhaps to push themselves into the first round conversation?
Ooh, pushing into the first round conversation. Honestly, it's loaded. That's probably loaded at this point because we can go really anywhere with where we're pushing. To me, D'Angelo Pons, his ability from Indiana. I know he's going to be one of the smaller cornerbacks in the NFL when he's drafted, but you look at fluidity and his ability in just those traits, those small things. I don't care what he did running a straight line in the 40. I don't care what they all look good. But his ability in his back pedals, and they talk about keeping yourself in sync with his upper body and lower body. There's nobody better in this class.
Yeah.
And so I think if I'm taking a cornerback, or if I need a cornerback and he's on the board, I think I want to move up and I want to get him because of that 5th year as well.
He seems to play big too. Vertical leap was good. Seems to high point the ball.
I call him a think artist, forced incompletion artist, because somehow he just, like you said it, he plays so much bigger than he actually is, and his instincts are probably second to none in this class.
I'm a big Chris Johnson fan at San Diego State. What do you think?
Love him. Honestly, he broke my grading system and our analytical system because of how well he played and how limited coverage this past season. So yeah, there's a lot to like behind that Mansour Delane, Jamont McCoy duo at the top.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's where it could get really interesting. I think there are a few corners that could find themselves in that 20s conversation before the first round comes to a close that maybe aren't being discussed as much today. Cam, always enjoy the conversation, buddy. Mark will be back next week, and then I'll get you in 2 weeks on draft day. So appreciate the time today.
Awesome. Yeah, Mike, thanks as always. And we'll talk in 2 weeks.
Yes, sir. Cam Meller. They do good stuff there. Get on a mock draft yourself. Get your favorite team up there on that Pro Football Network site.
I think I did about 4 this morning.
Did you really?
Yeah. I love it.
Trades or no trades?
I try and do no trades just because I don't want to get too crazy with it.
Now, do you give yourself a different look like, hey, I'll take this guy this time? Or do you just fall in love and take the same guy every time?
No, typically with the first 2 picks for the Cowboys, it's been pretty chalk. Although lately I've been getting like Jeremiah Love fell to 12. I'm like, I don't want to take him, but he's there. So yes, I'm going to take him. Caleb Downs in one of my recent mock drafts fell to the Cowboys at 12. So,
right.
I'll take Caleb. Actually, I had both Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Love available to me at 12.
Wow.
I went defense. Cowboys need defense.
Right.
So typically my first 2 picks are always about the same 3 to 4 guys. After that's where it gets fun.
Okay. Yeah, I finally got on the last week. I told you I would once we got through March Madness, and I found the edge rushers. The Dolphins have 7 picks in the first 3 rounds, but
Mhm.
like when you get into the third round, there's a handful of edge rushers that like I don't know, right? You never know how this
Mhm.
turns out, but that they keep finding themselves available, and it's like, all right, like if you're Miami, maybe you invest in some other spots, and then you invest in like with that number of picks, like I could see them taking 2 corners, 2 edge rushers, like they need to, right?
Yeah.
They need to have depth at those positions.
You
So
do trades?
double dipping. Yeah, I'll tinker with it, but it's so easy.
Mhm.
Like I think we talk just keep trading back.
Yeah.
Like, I end up with 15 picks in the 2027 draft. It begins to become a little bit ridiculous. But
Yeah.
can you
So
imagine being on the clock though? It's like, wow, like we can really load up on next year's draft.
yeah. Seriously.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, if I'm GM of the Cowboys, I I want to stay at 12 and 20. I don't want them to move up. I
Mm.
know there's been
A lot of discussion
a lot of
about
discussion
that.
about trading
Yeah.
up to 3 for David Bailey, maybe even to 9. Um, but if they are going to make a trade, I'd rather them trade back just a few spots.
See, I think what is, and we'll get to break here, but like what is interesting, at least from where I stand, in my opinion, is, and it usually is this way, is first round grades. There's never 32 first round
Right.
prospects. It really does sort of cut itself off right around where the Cowboys' first pick is 12, right? Everyone's math's a little bit different, but
Right.
I think so if anything, like that second pick, you could see them wanting, and I think a lot of teams that are in that area would want to move up to try to get one of the, if you were blue chip
Mhm.
prospects. So where the Dolphins are at 11, Cowboys are at 12, that's prime hunting ground for teams that are probably trying to move up and get the blue chipper and be willing to give up something later. Because I don't think the depth, I'm not as impressed with the depth in this class at most positions. There are some positions that will provide you something, but this doesn't feel as strong as a draft as we've seen the last couple of years.
Yeah, I've once I get through the first 2 picks and the Cowboys don't pick again until 92, I believe, in the 3rd round.
Mm.
So it's a long wait.
Well, that's where, like, again, tangenting here, but like for 20, like you could see where if a team wants to move up,
Mhm.
I could get where
Yeah.
Dallas would want to move back,
Yeah,
get a
just a
later
couple
first
spots.
or even whatever it
Yeah.
is, right, to accumulate a little bit more depth. Where I think 92, there's still going to be a range of a pretty good player, I think, but maybe you can turn one player into 2, and there's not much of a difference.
And that's what the hope is, because I think they only have 7 picks total
Right.
in the draft.
Right.
So if they can add just a couple more at least, because that defense needs a lot of work.
Yeah. And I would say, in regards to Dolphins, 7 picks, like you're hoping that, 4 or 5 of them are going to hit as starters, and they need that, right? That how the Dolphins look today, they might look completely different as far as the number of rookies they're going to play for them this upcoming season
Right.
based on this draft. All right, coming up on 11 o'clock, WYGM Orlando, WJRR, HD2 Cocoa Beach, FM 96.9 The Game, and AM 740. Back with the news next.
Now it is time to do the news.
But now it's time for the news.
Mike Tucker from Marc Daniels, Vita Sports on FM 96.9 The Game. Mark's traveling with UCF Baseball, but he'll be back on the air with you tomorrow. Chris Vasquez in with me today as well. Starting with the Magic win last night, 132-120 over the purposefully depleted Minnesota Timberwolves, resting many of their more important players last night. But the Magic don't need to apologize for it. Their fourth straight win. Franz Wagner had a bit of a scare in the game with a small hyperextension of his knee, went to the locker room, but was able to return and finish the game, finished with 17 points. So the Magic now, with just a couple of games left to play, at Chicago, at Boston, they are currently tied with Philadelphia. The Sixers have 3 games left, at Houston, at Indiana, and Milwaukee at home to close. They are 1 game up on Charlotte, who has Detroit in New York. And then they're 1 game back of Toronto and Atlanta. Those teams occupy 5 and 6 in the Eastern Conference, which means you would not be part of the play-in. The Magic would lose tiebreakers to every single one of those teams, however, so therefore need to be ahead to win in a tiebreaker scenario. So they would need Atlanta to lose both to get ahead of the Hawks, or Toronto to lose 2 out of the 3. Just so you know, the Raptors are playing the Heat, the Knicks, and Brooklyn, so probably need the first 2 to come through for you. And Atlanta is playing Cleveland and Miami. So that's the way that sits. Let me offer a small correction on something I said earlier as well.
Okay.
I was under the impression that a lottery win would protect the Magic's pick. It will not. In fact, they're in a very convoluted deal with Memphis, which I knew Memphis had the pick, but I thought under protections it's not protected, but it also won't necessarily convey to Memphis either. Phoenix is involved in that bad boy. I thought the Phoenix part could protect them. It won't, because Charlotte would get the pick. And so, long story short, the Magic don't have a pick, regardless of how this turns out. So to be clear on that, they do not have a pick.
NBA trading draft picks is the most.
Yeah, and then you can trade one that you've already traded and insert, again, multiple
So
scenarios.
confusing.
There are literally 5, because I didn't mention Washington. Washington is picked as involved in this as well. So there's 5 teams basically for 3 picks is what it turns out to be. So my apologies for not having that all down earlier when I brought. Yeah, no, no, it's on me. It's on me. So really, the only thing that would make Magic fans happy, I think, is winning a first round series. That's about the only scenario. I guess if you challenge in the first round and make it fun. But
no, there's nothing that's.
I
Make
don't
them
know,
happy.
to your point, because you expected to win in the first round this year.
I think a deep Eastern Conference playoffs run was expected.
I think if they upset somebody, no, again, everyone's their own,
Yeah.
right? I'm just telling you how I would think. Like if you pull a first round upset, you beat Boston, Detroit, Cleveland, New York in the first round, and then you lose a competitive series in the next round. I don't think anyone's like, oh, we got to tear it down to the baseboards.
Because then we're going back to fire Jamal Mosley.
Well, that might be the case, but I don't mean you don't have to hey, you got to trade Paolo or Franz. I don't think we're going that way with it.
Well, as Mark likes to say, it's always about the journey. If Paolo struggles in the first
No,
round.
but I presented if they win and then are competitive in the next round.
No, I'm saying if Paolo struggles and they win in spite of his struggles.
Oh gosh, okay. No,
there's always scenarios where someone's not going to be happy regardless of how games are played.
You're not wrong. I guess that would be another twist in the story. Let's just let it play out over the next 2 weeks and see what happens, I guess. Oklahoma City last night joined exclusive company. They clinched the number 1 overall seed in the NBA playoffs. They did that for the 3rd consecutive season in doing so. It is pretty rare, actually. Only the 6th team to do it 3 straight years. The other teams all were able to win multiple championships, for the record.
One being the Lakers.
That includes the Celtics in the 80s, winning 2 titles. The Lakers in the 80s, winning over that period 3 titles, which was a 6-year run. The Bulls in the 90s, winning 3 straight championships. And then the Lakers with the Kobe Gasol teams, which went to the finals 3 years in a row, 1-2. And then the Warriors.
Kobe and Shaq never had the number 1 seed 3 years in a row?
No.
Wow.
They had the best record their first year, almost got busted. Second year, they didn't, but went on the road and Kobe annihilated everybody in those playoffs. They only lost the one game. They went, 15-1 back then, I believe, in winning the NBA title. Iverson and the Sixers beat them in game one, and that's the only game they lost the entire playoffs. And then the next year, Sacramento had home court. So, yeah, they only had home court that first year in that run.
Kind of surprising.
I mean, I think it speaks to how Shaq at times treated the regular season, to be fair. I mean, I guess in a roundabout way, that's how I'd probably evaluate that.
Fair.
But they were obviously, the best team. They won 3 in a row. So by hook or crook. And then the Warriors did it 3 straight years as well, from 15, 16, and 17. And we know they lost the middle one with the best record of all time. So, but that is a feather in the Oklahoma City Thunder's cap as we get ready for the NBA playoffs. The Masters is underway. Let me refresh the scoreboard before I start to make sure nothing's changed. Tommy Fleetwood and Patrick Reed are your co-leaders. They are playing together through 4 at 3 under par. Jose Maria still up there. Olazabal tied for third with 2 others at 2 under par. And then a handful of other golfers that have jumped out onto the course. The defending champion, Rory McIlroy, is one of those guys. He is 1 under through 2. Bryson DeChambeau is even through 3. Xander Schauffele is even through 4. Colin Morikawa is even through 3. Victor Hovland even. So it's a lot of notables out there. Let's see. Anyone off to Aldrich? Aldrich can make plans for the weekend probably. He's 8 under through 10. Carlos Ortiz is 8 over through 12. So, and Angel Cabrera is 5 over. So Bubba Watson's 4 over through 7. So Keegan Bradley 3 over through 6. Maybe still time to rally for those guys, but you're 8 over on the front. That's probably a bad sign that you're not going to be making the cut for the weekend. And I will give you one other NFL note. We're going to do some NFL coming up this hour as well. So Chris Vasquez, buckle up your seatbelt for that. Atlanta's right tackle, Caleb McGrary, retired. So it's that time of the year. Some guys are deciding if their body is willing and able or not, make plans accordingly. The Falcons signed Jawan Taylor, who has been the solution for nobody, respectfully, at right tackle, but that's who they have at least temporarily replaced their right tackle with. We'll see what happens in the NFL draft, but it's helpful to know these things before you go into the draft, as opposed to after. Aaron Rodgers, on what you might be doing this upcoming season.
I don't know. Pittsburgh seems to be very high on Will Howard.
Yeah. See about that. We'll be drafting high in the draft next year if they're playing Will Howard this upcoming season, is my prediction.
Do you think, Mark asked me this yesterday, do you think Ty Simpson sneaks his way into the first round?
Historically speaking, it seems like it's likely that a team will. You like having the 5th-year option on quarterbacks. That's
exactly what I said.
Always happens.
Exactly
Lamar Jackson, and there's been others over the years.
Teddy Bridgewater was the 32nd pick in the first round. Teddy
Bridgewater, yeah. There's a handful of guys that go there right in that 30, 31, 32 range. Yeah, I mean, that's it feels like, and again, like everyone's going to have, and we can talk more even in 2 weeks about Ty Simpson if we want to, but the dude can play. Like, there's nothing about me that thinks he can't play. I think the overall thought is 1 year of starting quarterback in college football, and the history on that's not very good. So the team that drafts him, I think, needs to approach it from the standpoint of, hey, we probably don't want to throw this guy into the mix too soon, or it could end up not looking good. Right. And then you ruin it. And then, so I think like, as much as you see in Arizona, and so, like, I wouldn't necessarily want it to be a team like that. I'd rather it be, and I don't think it'll be the Rams, but
I was going to say an LA Rams team would be perfect.
Right. I don't think it'll be them just because, one, they already traded for McDuffie with that pick that they had late. But a team that's like, yeah, we could see ourselves going down that quarterback path. Like, if Pittsburgh trades back, then maybe I guess you could make that argument, especially if Rodgers does come into the fold. It makes sense, but that would probably make the most sense for a guy like Ty Simpson.
All right. I think the best
Go ahead.
Best case scenario is for him to sit a year, maybe even 2 years, and learn from.
Yeah.
a la Patrick Mahomes.
Right. Yeah. I think there's a lot of teams looking at quarterbacks in this draft with the same vision, right? It's not just Ty Simpson who's short on starts. I don't think there's anyone outside of Mendoza that you look at as, hey, I'd like to see this guy play this year,
Right.
frankly. I think all of them need to sit and watch for a little while. Tanking in the NBA, not a new subject, but Draymond Green addressed it the other night after the Warriors win over the Kings and got some scary numbers in regards to what that looks like and how it's playing out this NBA season next.
Ready for more sports talk? Of course you are. In for Marc Daniels, here's Mike Talk.
What is up, one and all? 11 o'clock hour here on the Beat of Sports on FM 96.9 The Game. Mark's traveling with UCF baseball. He'll be on the show tomorrow. They'll take on Kansas. Chris Vasquez here. I promised him some football coming up, but I do want to address what has been, I mean, honestly, I know Bianchi is, every time I'm on with Bianchi, he calls me Mr. NBA. And the NBA isn't my favorite sport. I appreciate the acknowledgement because I do love the NBA and I do love basketball. But this has been a tough year, honestly, as an NBA fan. Nothing to do with personal rooting interests or anything like that. It's just been a tough year to find good basketball on any given night, where it's like, all right, either you don't want to watch, you're turned off by who's not playing, or you start watching and you want to tune away because the game gets out of hand too quickly. And a large part of that has to do with the bottom of the NBA. The bottom 10, who we'll reference here, the 5 teams in the East, the 5 in the West that have been eliminated, and it had been eliminated from playoff contention for a while now. If you just look at their last 10 each, their overall record is 20-80, which is horrific. But it's actually way worse than that. It's way worse than that because the reality is that's against everybody, which includes each other, which means that they're going to win some games when they play each other. If you look at the top 10 or the bottom 10 against the top 20 only, take out the games against each other over their last 10. So this is mathematics that I had to do. The overall record is 12-88. And yet it can be worse. If you look at how the bottom 10 have done against the top 12, which are the 6 locked in the East and in the West, as it sits over the last month, their overall record is 6-59. 6-59. The average margin of victory this year in the NBA is 13.1 points. For the whole league, it's 13.1. There have been 89 games decided by 30 or more this year. Both of those stats I just gave you are all-time records. So we have an all-time record in margin of victory and an all-time record in number of games won by 30-plus this season. In fact, over the last week plus now, so if you go back to April 3rd and March 29th, 2 days in NBA history with at least 9 games played. So if you look at all the history of the league where there's at least 9 games in action, the average margin of victory was more than 24 on those 2 dates. That includes the Magic's getting demolished by Toronto. That was part of that equation. All time, it's happened twice, and it happened twice over a few days in the history of the league. And it's in large part to what Draymond Green addressed the other night after they beat Sacramento.
I think it worked initially. And now, to have a team stuck in 10, it ain't working. So, we could have lost our last 15 games and been stuck in 10, it ain't working. But it works for a little bit. If you can be stuck in 10th and lose all the last 15 games of your season, you could be stuck in 10th. So, yeah.
You think that's more about tanking than the play-in, though? Because it's about the 5 teams below.
I think the play-in was made for teams to not tank. I think that's the part that everyone forgets. The play-in came about to make teams like maybe through 12 or 13 keep going. They ain't keep going.
This year.
They kind of slowed down. They hit the brakes. So, I saw a team tonight foul Seth Curry. with 3 minutes to go in the game for no reason. In the penalty. It ain't working. So, but, you know, we want to make the playoffs. It works, I guess.
The Seth Curry part of it is its own unique animal. They say it's an accident. It probably was because they drew up a play right after, got a three, took the lead right back. So clearly a miscommunication. Now, Seth had only shot 6 free throws before that, but career-wise is like his brother, like a 90% foul shooter. So don't think you wanted to intentionally, with the lead in 3 minutes to go, put him on the line to go behind. So I don't think there was intention there. It's just weird that it happened that way. Sacramento actually has been winning games and put themselves in position where they might not have as strong a lottery odds. But when, to what Draymond's point he was saying about the play-in was put in place to keep more teams actively involved to try to make the playoffs. These bottom 10 have decided long ago, as I laid out these records, they weren't making it. Like Golden State is 10th. They've been 10th. They could have climbed if they had won some more, but like they were never in danger of falling out at all in the last month. Steph could keep resting because there was nobody chasing them. Like the argument for the play-in, and I don't know that they're going to get rid of it because they sell it. Amazon's going to have it next week, right? Like I was never really a proponent for it. I don't think we needed to have 20 of the teams alive for the playoffs. I felt like that was overkill. It'd be more interesting, frankly, if like 2 teams were chasing the 2 teams. Like imagine the Magic, right? Like they'd be fighting for their spot now as opposed to fighting for it next week. I don't think it's going away. When it comes to lottery odds, and there's a lot of arguments for losing games, obviously why teams do it and elect to do it and the way they do it and signing street free agents and two-way players and then playing them. Like as somebody who finished up their fantasy basketball season trying to employ Utah Jazz guards and then finding out they didn't want to play the backup or the backup to the backup or even that guy's backup. They were doing other things. Now they were still playing other guys, but it's like they were throwing guys in there that were not even playing as much as in the G League, right? So there's that element to it. But I would come with this, and we need to stop it. It's a focus of Adam Silver this offseason and how they're going to stop it. But you're not guaranteed anything. I still don't know why teams go down this route when we see, I'll just highlight 2018 in particular. You could highlight last year, Cooper Flagg. Dallas did not have anywhere close to the best odds, and they ended up with Cooper Flagg. Utah, who had the best odds, ended up picking 5th and got Ace Bailey. Right? So you're guaranteed nothing in this process. Like Phoenix had the best odds in 2018. The reason I highlighted is, wow, great, Phoenix, you earned it. Who do you take? DeAndre Ayton. You realize they passed on Luka, Shea, and just to name a few others, Jaren Jackson, Trae Young, Mikal Bridges, Miles Bridges, Michael Porter Jr. All those players have had better careers. Meanwhile, Sacramento actually moved up. So, yay, Sacramento, you bucked the odds. You moved up, and you took Marvin Bagley over all those guys I just named. Like, on some level, you make your own luck. There's a long run of guys that were not number 1 overall, number 2 overall, 3, 4, right? Like, yes, it's great. Cooper Flagg is, well worth it for Dallas. But it's a lottery. Like, and Shea went 13th. Or, 11th. Shea went 11th. Luka went 3rd, right? Like, on some level, you still have to make the right pick.
To be fair with SGA, he didn't succeed in the team that drafted him.
No, he was really good, though, and then he got traded after 1 year, right? They hard stop, went out on him too fast.
But the tanking bugs the hell out of me.
It bugs everybody, yeah.
The analytics of it all with like the Timberwolves last night sitting everybody.
Yeah.
Bugs the hell out of me. Like you are paid millions of dollars to play basketball. Play basketball. And I get it's not all on the players. It's on management and ownership and, we got to make sure we're well rested for the playoffs. Stop it. Stop it. You get so much into your head with these analytics that you hurt yourself. Guys are in rhythm. Guys have momentum.
I don't think
keep that going.
You're right, and I don't think you're trying to say it this way, but like I don't think anyone's necessarily mad at Minnesota last night when it looks like they're locked into 6 in the West. Like that's fine. Boston, the Magic play on the last day of the season. Like, yeah, if Boston wants to rest guys, they want to. That's not really the issue. The issue is that in January, guys aren't playing. In February, guys aren't playing. Right? Isn't that's really the problem?
The fact that the NBA had to come up with a rule for guys to play 65 games minimum is absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
You're right, and it's also why the rule's not going anywhere. It's why it needs to stay.
But then they still want
hands.
They still want fans to support them year in and year out.
I know. Well, they're running into, and it's the results too. It's a results oriented thing. And when I can read to you the number of blowouts this year and the margin of victories as a casual, and I mean casual as far as I watch every game casual. Like I want to watch. I'm not just watching the Magic. I'm not even just watching my Lakers. Like I'm watching the NBA on a nightly basis. I want to flip around and see good basketball. I have the ticket to watch other, and when it's like, oh nope, keep going because who's not playing and or just again the result. It'd be one thing if guys aren't playing, but games are good. Games haven't been good. Too many blowouts. The NFL has in first round picks what they call a 5th-year team option. I know Chris Vasquez will have a reaction to a team that exercised theirs yesterday. That's coming up next on the Beat of Sports. Beat of Sports on this Thursday. Thank you for listening and watching on our YouTube stream as well. 96.9 Game On. You can catch us there every day. Dressed nicely. I'm going to teach at Full Sail, the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting, when I leave here today. Chris Vasquez.
I will be going home to my daughter, who had her first dentist appointment today, actually.
Ooh, that's a big one.
I'm anxious to see how that went.
Big
Because she hates having her teeth brushed. Absolutely hates it.
That's a battle. It's an ongoing battle, my friend. Doesn't get easier. Because once they figure it out, it's getting them to do it.
Yeah.
And instead of just sucking on the toothbrush.
Yeah, she just wants the toothpaste, and then that's it. She's like,
Right.
get it out.
Got to actually brush there, kiddo.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm still brushing teeth to this day. So, yeah, it's a hard, but you got to make sure you get it done.
Yeah.
Even a dentist is going to tell you that, hey, they might be able to do it, but you should do it every once in a while
I'm gonna
to
need
make sure it gets done right.
I'm going to need some tips and tricks because she loves to then use her tongue to push out the toothbrush too. It's like,
or they bite on it so you can't brush. Complain it hurts.
Killing me, girl.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
I get it. The biggest CJ Stroud fan sitting across from me. I don't know if you offered thoughts in this yesterday. I don't know when it broke, but the Houston Texans have enacted their fifth-year team option on both Will Anderson and CJ Stroud. For the record, only 11 total have been done. They have until the end of the month to do it. There's still a lot of big names, like I'll just get Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, they're going to get it, right? Yeah. Bare minimum, if not get an extension like JSN. JSN's the only guy that's got a full extension at this point. So there's no judgment on who got it first or who got it next because there's still a lot of guys. There's probably only 10, just me looking at it will save you the time and effort, that aren't going to get it, so it's a pretty high water mark. About, I would guess, at least 22 guys are going to get the fifth-year option, which is better than average. But your thoughts on the commitment to CJ Stroud for another year after this one?
I will say we've seen what it's like when teams don't have a franchise guy or someone who they deem to be a franchise guy. I'll just look at Cleveland every year.
Right.
So being in quarterback hell is not a spot you want to be. Obviously, I don't think CJ Stroud is the guy to put Houston where they want to be, but he is better than what the alternative could be. So I guess for that, you can take it for what it's worth.
Right. They've been in the playoffs. Doesn't prohibit them from, the best example you could give is Jalen Hurts being picked by Philadelphia when they had Carson Wentz. It was an MVP candidate.
Or look at Washington when they had RG3 in the first round, then drafted Kirk Cousins in the same draft.
That's even a little bit different, but yeah. So you don't want to end up where you're Arizona or Miami. That's probably the worst spot, is giving the extension and then regretting it. We thought, and I guess we're past it. I don't know how you feel about Trevor Lawrence right now in Jacksonville. Like, they were good last year, so I guess
Trevor Lawrence, Jordan Love. We don't know what these guys are really.
But you don't feel you're not Miami or Arizona, right?
For sure.
Yeah, and it's a 2-year evaluation at this point. Now, going into next year, he may want an extension, but he'll have to play well this year to earn it. And then, that maybe is the good thing, but also becomes the hard thing, is now how do you evaluate kind of the way Tua did? Tua played well enough to earn the extension, and then it didn't play well after the extension.
Right.
If CJ plays well this year, you're entitled to your belief. I don't know if there's anything he can do to make you move off of your belief with him.
The thing that scares me the most is, and we see it year in and year out, guys, when it's their contract year, let's ball out.
Right.
I got to get that payday. Then as soon as they get the payday, just.
Right.
So I don't know how to judge him accurately or fairly, because, again, you got the motivation of contract year. All right, let's get paid. But then are you going to turn into Tua? Are you going to turn into Kyler Murray?
And it's the most complicated, right? Like, you wouldn't be surprised tomorrow if they signed Will Anderson to an extension. Forget about the fifth-year option, just an extension, right? He's been worth his weight in gold in trading up for him. And it's probably just easier to do that with Bijan, or to do that with Jahmyr Gibbs, or Jalen Carter. You can go through the list of players that are on the list of that 23 draft. Yeah, 23 draft. And it's just a matter of, do you have the right number in mind for whatever that extension is? So, yeah, I saw that new All right, we'll see what CV thinks because Bryce Young got the 5th-year option already. So
I believe
Anthony
in,
Richardson probably will not. I think
No.
it's safe to say he's the quarterback that won't get it from this group.
correct.
So
And just for the record, I am a bigger Bryce Young fan than CJ Stroud.
yeah, that's okay. I don't think Bryce. I like Bryce. I just don't think he has the size to be, long term
Mhm.
the guy. He's good enough to get them to where they were. They invested heavily this offseason, so expectations raised for them next year, in which the NFC South becomes very interesting.
Yeah.
Really, like Atlanta with a change of the guard, and like
Mhm.
what does that look like? And Carolina winning the division and now making more upgrades, and Tampa trying to recalibrate to get back on top. And
Tampa kind
New
of
Orleans is
it me or does Tampa seem like they're kind of going backwards?
well, they did. I don't know if they're going to keep trending back. They didn't go back far. Like they literally were in the division race and hadn't dominated. They won the division, but haven't really dominated it since they won the Super Bowl. They've just sort of taken advantage of a weaker division
Right.
over that time period. It won't surprise me if Tampa wins the division this year. It also probably won't surprise me if New Orleans does or Atlanta does or Carolina does. Like it's one of those divisions. I think all 4 teams are on a similar plane in health and draft.
I'd be willing to bet this division comes down to within 2 games from first to last.
It seems like it will. Yes, I would agree with you. But that was one of the things. Then I had one more thing before we get to a break.
Mhm.
Now, take this for what you want to take it for, but it's one of those things. I don't think Jordan Schultz isn't putting this out there to get attention for himself. He's putting out what he's been told. Jordan Schultz tweeted yesterday, which, by the way, we still call it tweeted, even though it's X. Like, there's not
He didn't X it.
I know, but that's not like no one ever says that.
I'm saying he didn't. Like we don't. He tweeted.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a
there's not a verb
for X.
No.
It's tweet, but it's not Twitter. I don't know. Just a thought. I don't know. Random things that run through my mind. And I'm using his phrasing here. Trade heavy. This draft could be the most trade heavy in recent memory. And then he cites the edge group, the corners, the linebackers, and the wide receivers as the deep groups that teams could be looking to jockey for in the first half of this upcoming NFL draft's first round, 2 weeks from today. We've seen it. We always talk about it. Like we get excited about the idea of trades. I mean, I don't think he's putting it out there again to draw attention. He's putting out what he's been told. But it is sort of a fascinating thought is, all right, if it will be trade heavy, how many trades? Where will we see the trades?
I don't feel like it's going to be that very trade heavy.
Several teams with multiple picks.
Yeah.
That could play into a role too.
I don't know. There's not a guy. I mean, again, Cowboys have been rumored to trade up to 3 or 9.
Yeah.
I don't think your Dolphins are going to trade up.
I wouldn't think so. I mean,
It wouldn't make sense to. Would it?
No, they have obviously the ammunition to do it.
But there's just so many holes in Miami. It wouldn't make sense for them to trade up.
Right.
I mean, I could see someone trading back into the first round again to get a Ty Simpson.
Right. But for every
But
trade back, there's a trade up.
Yeah.
That's how that works. Like
maybe
it'll be small steps. Maybe it'll be, moving from, 9 to 7 or from and you're just moving deck chairs later in the draft. Maybe there'll be a lot of that as opposed to the big move up, a la the Chiefs to move up to get Patrick Mahomes, that kind of a big jump up the board. But just putting it out there, that's what Jordan Schultz said could be a trade-heavy draft coming up
if you had to guess
2 weeks.
How many trades do you think happen in the first round? If you had to
I'd
guess.
set the over-under at probably 6.5, somewhere like that.
Okay.
I feel like that's safe.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know if there's a blockbuster to be had. I don't foresee that. There's only one quarterback, so that sort of takes that off the table too, right? A lot of times it's all right. But you mentioned there's only one other possibility as a first-round quarterback, and that's I would presume not till in the 20s or the 30s.
But there's also, could the Cowboys trade George Pickens? Could we see a position guy?
A.J. Brown.
There you go.
Although I don't know how that is affected with the June status for his contract. I don't know if that's even, hey, we'll do it, but it'll have to wait. I don't know how.
Yeah,
I just know they have to kind of wait June or July, whatever it is, for his contract in Philadelphia to work out.
Right.
So that might take that off the board. I don't know.
It'll be fun.
Yep. That's 2 weeks from now. When we come back, this college football player says he turned down $10 million this offseason. Who? From where? We'll discuss it next.
Time for the latest news, gossip, trends, and off-the-wall stories. Trends.
That's the craziest thing I ever heard.
Mike Tuck wrapping things up today for the Beat of Sports. Marc Daniels will be back on the show tomorrow. One thing we definitely have not had yet in the portal is, and we've had a lot of surprises, like no one expected Fernando Mendoza or Cam Ward to make the humongous leaps they did to become number one overall picks in the draft. Even Jaden Daniels, like, to make the leap to be number two. Caleb Williams, a little different. Like, he was prognosticated as being one of those guys. And his transfer was unique because he followed his coach. But we haven't had that quarterback that becomes like the free agent frenzy in college football yet. But a wide receiver, Jeremiah Smith, claims that he has been offered $10 million to leave Ohio State. Don't know how much he's making. Just reading what you read, maybe upwards of 6 is what he's getting paid by the Buckeyes. What do you think? Hard to pay that much to any non-quarterback, though, as much as we're trying to figure out these prices.
Again, I hate everything about this. I hate everything about it. But, I mean, good for him if he is turning down $10 million. He wants to stay somewhere where he's getting paid very well, where he's got a shot to win.
Big picture. They've done a pretty good job with receivers at Ohio State.
Yeah. Again, think long-term. Everyone thinks such short-term. Like, think long-term.
Right. Yeah. Although if it's Miami, damn it. And look, they recruited him. He was like number 2 on his list. So everyone is speculating it was the Hurricanes that did it. But Jeremiah Smith will be a Buckeye this upcoming season. Chris Vasquez, appreciate your time today, bud.
Mike Tuck, as always, sir.
Marc Daniels back in the big seat tomorrow. The Herd is next in the zone at 3 o'clock. Don't go anywhere. Don't leave that radio dial. Have a fantastic day. Talk to you down the road.